I'm going to be ranking and scoring the Quantic Dream games that I've played on the PlayStation. That's 4 games, so Indigo Prophecy, which is also called Fahrenheit, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. I'm showing the intro from Indigo Prophecy, also known as Fahrenheit in Europe, and it just starts off with the main character, Lucas Kane, talking about how the world isn't exactly how it seems. There's a lot going on which we're not aware of. It's a very supernatural game. It's a chaotic game, and I'm going to go into the different categories and give more of my opinions, but overall I think this is a very good game, especially in the PS2 era when certain things were more tolerated. For example, poor controls and camera wasn't as good. Anyway, let's start off with the story. As you can see on the screen, it's a very unique story. It's very ambitious. It starts off amazingly well. It's one of the best intros I've ever seen, as I put on the screen. The first hour or so is really, really gripping. You're getting involved in sort of crazy stuff going on, searching for clues when you're the other characters, and trying to hide what's happened in this scene that you see here. And yeah, you can play it in so many different ways. And that's what I love about the game. It's a story which is, there is just one story really, and you've got different endings, etc. But there's different ways to get to that, for the story to go, basically. But the problem is, it's just a little bit over the top, and it just becomes a bit silly towards the end. There's just too much going on in all sorts of directions, and it loses its cohesive nature, and just becomes less enjoyable. And just, yeah, it's an experience which it gradually gets worse as the game goes on, I'd say. But maybe you could argue in the middle it's actually as good as the beginning. But anyway, overall, it is still worth playing, but I have to warn you that overall you'll feel a little bit annoyed with the story just completely losing focus. Anyway, I'm going to be showing the next category very soon, so yeah. I can imagine this game with modern graphics. It would be pretty brutal. Anyway, the voice acting is, as I say here, mostly good. The main characters all have pretty good performances in general. There's a few lines that I suppose they could be delivered a little bit better, but the side characters are mostly good as well. There's a few that I can think of that they massively got wrong. There's a Chinese man in a library which was ridiculous, bordering on parody. Some of the other characters aren't particularly great as well, just sort of like soldiers and stuff in some of the chapters don't really sound that convincing. Yeah, overall not bad, but not Quantic Dream's best game for this. I'd say it's fine. Actually thinking about it, of the games, because the standard is pretty high, it probably is the worst of the 4 for voice acting actually, but it's still good. Just, yeah, it doesn't grip you in as much as the others. The player choice in this game is actually very good. What I love about it is there's so many different ways you can die in this game, so many ways you can mess up, which I think is it's the most unique in that sense compared to the other games. You have lots of different choices as well in terms of which paths you want to go down, the sort of more minor choices. But there are some major choices as well which get impacted by what you do. And yeah, they're very satisfying. There's not loads and loads of choices like some of the other games, but sometimes I feel like having loads and loads of choices, it can actually be too much. It loses a bit of focus, I find. So I think some of my opinions in this a lot of people will disagree with, but that's the thing about gaming. We all have different opinions about things. But anyway, I was impressed with the player choice, and just the not lack of freedom, the amount of freedom you could have in certain things, I thought was really cool. Yeah. and also the player choice, not just options which affect the story. Things like being able to go and do the punching bag quick time event, or playing on the guitar, or just things like that. Little activities which were still quite engaging. So yeah. Now the gameplay is the worst part of Indigo Prophecy / Fahrenheit, just because there's so many quick time events, and I actually showed one of the sort of less bad ones early on in the game, but some of them just they're awful. They go on far too long. They're just very punishing, tedious. Everything. It's just they learned from this because the quick time events are so much better in the other games. Having that as gameplay, I know some people really hate them. I think quick time events are fine if they're done properly, and in this game they're just not done properly. Like I said, this is actually one of the less tedious ones, but it still is pretty bad. So I think it's worth showing. Just pressing buttons, and it's not particularly engaging or anything. Also, I like it when you've got quick time events and there's sort of something amazing happening on the screen. So I think in a sense this was probably an average one, because nothing particularly interesting is happening while we're doing this. Okay, yes, you're rescuing a kid, cool. But if this had just been an option and no quick time events, I think it probably could have. Anyway, the music is fine. It's pretty good, I think. It suits the situation pretty well. There's a few stereotypes, like the for the music, different races, for example. But yeah, I think overall it's sound. It's good. Like the actual sounds are completely fine, average. The noises and things. But the music itself, there's a good variety of music, and it fits the situations well. So overall, I would say it's very good.
I'm sorry to make you wait like that. I was in the shower.
Are you Lucas Kane?
Yes.
Mr. Kane.
Not much more to say on this, which is why I'm waiting for the next category. Right, so it's actually another game now. So Heavy Rain, the story, it's very good. I think it's very good. It's very ambitious. I can understand why people don't like it. There's quite a few people that don't like it, just because there's lots of plot holes. They have a supernatural element in the game, but they didn't get rid of it, even though the game isn't really a supernatural game, so that's a bit silly. But I just love the scope of the whole thing. It's just, to have this serial killer, for it to, for one of the characters to have to do trials to progress to find more information to try and save his son. To be able to be in charge of this detective here, Norman Jayden, finding clues in areas, cutscenes of other police officers, including the infuriating Carter Blake interrupting here. And yeah, it's great, I think. But there's a few issues. That's why it's 8. Now, the voice acting is pretty good. The main characters, I think, mainly do a good job. I mean, you could argue that their pronunciation of origami is not great all the time, but it's fine. And I just think some of the side characters, the acting could have been a little bit better. But again, it's probably similar to Indigo Prophecy in that I think it's slightly better, even though I might have given it the same rating. It's so marginal that it's basically the same. And yeah, they both, just have the same weaknesses. Like good performances from the main cast. Some of the other performances could improve slightly, but it doesn't take away from the game. Player choice in Heavy Rain is the best Quantic Dream has done, in my opinion. Massive player choices, which impact things. I'm not going to worry about doing a spoiler because the game's 16 years old. So in Heavy Rain, if you don't get enough clues from the trials and certain other characters die, then you can't find the location of Ethan's son. So it's important to complete enough missions, enough trials. So in this, and some of the trials are absolutely extreme. In this trial, you can if you want, you can to get the letters, you can chop off his finger as yourself. And there's different weapons and things in the room. It's absolutely intense beyond belief. And in this one, I thought, for YouTube's sake, I'll just walk away. But yeah, there's all sorts of great stuff going on in the game. It's yeah. Anyway, gameplay is, I think overall it's fine. I think the quick time events are mostly quite good. Sometimes they go on too long and can be a little bit over the top. But overall they're good. And the investigative elements of the game are why I've given it 8 out of 10 for gameplay, because I love that you can collect these different clues with Norman Jayden. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. I didn't show too much of it here, but I could have shown more. But what you collect here really helps later in the game if you want to be successful with Norman. And you can piece things together from recordings because your glasses are recording and that's what's going on. And I just love things like that. For me, the best parts of the game are with Norman. Okay, it's also really good with Ethan as well because you've got the trials to do and they're really tense and great. But anyway, I've gone on enough about that. Music and sound, the best music in the series in my opinion. I absolutely love the, I think the song's called Bulldozer, but basically when you're doing these chases and when there's a fight or anything, it almost always does this tune, and it's just, if you've heard it, it's just an iconic tune. I think it's the best song in the game. It just really immerses you into the game, gets you hyped. I think the sad music is also really well done. Just sets the scene perfectly. I think they absolutely nailed it with the music. I mean, whoever did the music did a fantastic job. The sounds are also fairly good as well. I'd say just good. I wouldn't say absolutely amazing. I think if the sounds were amazing, it'll be maybe 9.5, close to 10 out of 10. The music just suits the game so well. So yeah. Now moving on to a new game, Beyond Two Souls. The story, this is by far the worst story in a Quantic Dream game. It's all over the place. Don't get me wrong, there's some really cool chapters in here, but I mean, they did do a new version of the game where you can play it in chronological order. It's still quite disjointed even like that, to be honest. It's just a bit like you're just filling in the gaps because it's going through Jodie's life, and it's just skipping forward too much, I think. And you have some chapters in there. Okay, it's trying to set the scene, showing that she went from a girl with this, an entity to her lost brother or whatever, and she has these powers where she can, basically it's actually her brother controlling things, but it's just strange, and it's just, yeah, it's not particularly a good story in my opinion, in so many ways. Voice acting is excellent, close to excellent. The main two characters, Jodie and Willem Dafoe's character, Doctor whatever his name is, very, very good. Actually, I'd say Willem Dafoe is even better than Jodie with the acting. I think he really gets into character so well. Shows the tension, the disappointment at times, the concern. In this scene is a bit of naivety, thinking Jodie's going to have fun at a party, and I think now Elliot Page, but at the time Ellen Page, does a good job with the voice acting as well. Excellent job, because she sort of shows the different frustration in different times of Jodie's life, and it's pretty convincing and engaging, and most of the scenes are done really well. Player choice is pretty good. It's decent. I'd say there's less sort of impactful player choices than most of the other games, if not all of them, all the other ones. But they're still quite fun. Here I'm showing the scene at the party where you can choose to get revenge or you can just escape. The revenge is pretty intense, depending on how far you choose to go. But yeah, yeah, I think I like stuff like that in games. I think it's cool. It's just a shame that the main story was bad, so the player choices couldn't be more impactful. Um, yeah, not much more I can say really. That the player choice was limited by the story basically, but the actual choices are pretty good. That's best describe it, sum it up. Yeah, I think I think the issue of this game is it was just. I think this might actually be the most ambitious game they've done, and it was just way too far. And again, the gameplay. Uh, I'm not a fan of the gameplay. I think some of it's okay. Some of the quick timed events are quite well done, and some of the exploring with Aiden is opening stuff and all that is okay. But it's just so repetitive, so tedious. It's not the detective aspect of the other games. As you can tell, I like detective stuff. Um, yeah, it's not good. I think 5 out of 10 is fair. I think there's aspects which are good, but overall it's just not enjoyable. So as you can see here on the screen, you're doing a lot of this, going into rooms, smashing things about, moving them about, looking for things, attacking enemies with this a million times over. Disappointing because I think that Quantic Dream is a very good developer. I think they make good games, unique games. Some people would argue they're movies, but whatever. Great experiences, but not with this one really. Music and sound, again, it's fine. It suits the different events in the story well, but it's just not particularly memorable. It doesn't immerse you that much, but at the same time, it's not out of. It doesn't. It's not out of place with what they're doing, and you know, it. It's completely fine. You don't think it. I doubt there'll be many people that complain that it's bad, but at the same time, I don't think that many people will be like, yeah, the music was so engaging, it was so gripping into the game. It was, like games that have had Jesper Kidd as the composer, Assassin's Creed and Hitman. The music is so good that it makes you enjoy the game even more. It's nothing like that. It's fine. It suits the game. Done. Above average. Detroit Become Human. The story, I think, is again ambitious, like they all are. I think it's extremely good. It's excellent when you're playing as Connor, this detective android. When you're playing as Connor with the partner Hank Anderson, I've really enjoyed that. I would say that's close to 10 out of 10. It's a 9 at least with these two. It's extremely engaging, exploring what's going on with the deviants, the androids which are attacking humans for whatever reason. Usually it's because they're being abused pretty much every time. And yeah, it's just a shame with the other characters, especially Kara. I found the Kara story quite tedious. It's quite slow. Don't get me wrong, there are some parts which are interesting and fine. But yeah, the Marcus one is okay. I think it could have just done with a few less scenes or him not being a playable character but showing Marcus as well. I think this should have been most of the game. They could have done more scenes with these two. Voice acting, again, it's the best, as I've said here, it's the best they've ever done. Especially Hank Anderson, with an unbelievably good performance. Connor as well does a good performance too. I don't know the actor's name. I think it's Brian Dishart. But anyway, yeah, the other performances are good too, but I just think the story is just not as engaging, so you don't feel as immersed. And yeah, it's mainly these two. I think again, if it was just these two for the whole game, it would be close to 10 out of 10 because it's so good. But the others again are still really high quality. That's why I've given it 9. The side characters also do very good performances, so they've learnt from that, and it's just a really great experience, which they probably some of the best voice acting in gaming that I can think of. I can think of a few better games, of course. The Last of Us comes to mind, but yeah. Player choice. So this, a lot of people will be like, oh, it's the best player choice in the series because there's so many choices. I disagree. I think the player choices are good, but a lot of them are kind of not that big important choices. Okay, there's some. Like in here, it seems really cool because there's all these different scenarios for the scene with um, the android, which has what's the word, dysfunctioned basically, and is trying to take this girl hostage. It doesn't matter if what happens here. It doesn't matter if the android dies. Doesn't matter if the girl dies. I know it sounds bad, but in the scheme of the story, None of this matters. Doesn't matter if Connor dies. Doesn't matter if he survives. This doesn't matter. And I think there's a few too many things like that in this game where, yes, okay, a character can die. Yes, this happens, that happens. And towards the end, the choices are much better, but there's a few too much choices which don't mean much, which is why I've given it their ranking. Now, gameplay is also the best in this game. I really like the well-made quick-time events. I think they were excellent in this game. I think they're the most intense and well implemented. I think the actual exploration and running around is quite good as well in this game. The detective scenes, which I showed a little bit earlier with Connor and Hank, are really well done. There's some awesome interrogations as well. I could have shown them, but I decided to show this. Yeah, it's very good. It's, you know, what they need to continue doing. They've done a good job. I mean, as you can tell, based on the scores so far, you can tell which two games are my favourites by Quantic Dream, and it's very close between the two. The only reason I prefer one of them is just because I think I'll get into it later in the conclusion, but either of them are the best. They're excellent. Now, music and sound is good. I wouldn't say it's as good as Heavy Rain. As I said here, it's a bit less memorable. It fits the scene. It does immerse you into the game a lot of the time, which is awesome. But yeah, not quite legendary tier like the Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain really was excellent music. Yeah, I don't think it gets enough credit for how good it was actually. The sounds are fine. You get gun sounds. You get things smashing around, attacking with weapons, and etc. So you get all sorts of sounds like that, and they're all sort of decent quality. Overall, well done with the game. I think it's, a lot of people really enjoyed this game and viewed it as the best game by Quantic Dream. I think fair enough. But here are my scores. Beyond Two Souls, of course, was the worst of them. Indigo Prophecy, I think if the camera angles and gameplay was better, it would be quite close to the other two. But this one, Detroit came second and Heavy Rain came first. And Heavy Rain came first for me because it's just such a big detective game, so focused on the detective aspect. And that for me is just, I love that sort of thing. It's probably my favourite type of TV show and all that stuff. I mean, comedy comes maybe a close second, but yeah, I just love that. So it's more personal preference. You could probably argue objectively Detroit is a marginally better game. Thanks for watching. I'm going to be making more gaming videos, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, I appreciate it. Bye.